And now the sounds of Warcraft III.
More work?
What do you want?
No one orders me around.
Job's done.
More work? What you want?
No one orders me around.
Something you doing?
Warcraft 3 is an RTS game, which translates to real-time strategy, developed by Blizzard Entertainment and released in 2002 under the title Warcraft 3: Reign of Chaos, which had an expansion called The Frozen Throne, which released in 2003. I was able to see the Warcraft 3 bundle collection called the Battle Chest being sold in Walmart before the Reforged edition came out. Honestly, I might need to go have a look again because it might still be sitting on the shelf. Arthas and his creepy-looking 2000s face. Oh, and of course, the game we're technically reviewing today, Warcraft 3 Reforged, which was released in 2020, to mixed opinions.
Ready to work, yes. We need more gold.
Well, the first thing we need to talk about when it comes to Warcraft 3 is the controversy. I remember when Warcraft 3 Reforged had come out, and I was kinda interested, having never gotten around to buying and playing through the whole thing. And naturally, after playing thousands of hours of World of Warcraft, I wanted to play the game which kinda started the lore, or at least set the stage for the MMORPG which was to come later. But when I expressed an interest in picking it up soon after the release, my friends were like, "No, don't do it! It's such a trash game right now! Stuff is broken! Worst game remaster ever!" I wonder if grunge reviews are a thing.
Worst game remaster ever!
I've done a bit of reading on the criticisms levied against Blizzard and Warcraft 3 Reforged. Criticisms on the BlizzCon 2018, Warcraft 3, the Culling campaign trailer. Go ahead and actually look that up. I didn't watch BlizzCon 2018 because I was busy being obsessed with Guild Wars 2 at that time. But after playing through the campaign and going back to watch the video, it makes sense why people were outraged. Though there is a flash of text which says, "Work in progress. Art and effects not final." Cool. Way to save your butts, Blizzard. Needless to say, the difference between the video they showed and the actual game experience is like watching an episode of The Muppets versus me putting on a puppet show with my socks. Both are entertaining, but one is way better quality than the others. Even if my socks are premium bought Fruit of the Loom. Another complaint people had is when Reforged came out, it basically replaced the original version, and people lost out on features they had in the original game. I never had these features, so I'm not upset about it. But I can empathize with, here you have this game you've been playing, and suddenly you go back to boot it up, and now you can't do everything you used to be able to do. It's a very real experience with a lot of online games today. Sometimes changes are for the better, sometimes changes are for the worse. There's always the favorite note about how Blizzard now owns everything you make. We'll talk more about this later, but Dota wouldn't have existed without Warcraft 3's modding scene. And had Dota been made in Warcraft 3 Reforged, it would now be owned by Blizzard. Sneaky. Can really see the legal fingerprints on it, can't you? But there's a problem. I can't really weigh in on those criticisms too much because I never really played the original Warcraft 3, which, trust me, I'm disappointed I didn't join the cool nerds until my college age too, rather than most people around my age having ridden the technology curve like surfing Pikachu rides the crest of an ocean wave. I wanted to acknowledge the criticisms and explain why I likely won't have any of the similar criticisms because, simply put, I never had any of those old experiences, nostalgia or otherwise, for Warcraft 3, which has its advantages and disadvantages. Namely, I'm a fresh face and a fresh perspective. Well, fresh to Warcraft 3, but not to Blizzard or the Warcraft universe and lore, etc. If you played the original game, my review probably won't help you much. I hope I can still entertain you somewhat, however, you won't be able to determine if you actually want to pick up and play Warcraft 3 Reforged based on my opinion. If you've never played Warcraft 3, hopefully my review can act as a guide if this might be something worth checking out. A final note I should add, I picked up Warcraft 3 Reforged on sale. I can't remember how much it was off, but I think it was roughly 50% off, and that was around $10 in price. When you play the patient game with video games, you always come out ahead financially. Everything eventually goes on sale. Unless it's Nintendo stuff. Then it's a curve and you want to grab it when it's older, but not retro. I swear, GameCube stuff used to be cheap, and now look at it. Ugh!
Locked and loaded! Move it! I laugh in the face of danger! Are you threatening me?
Oddly enough, I have a fond memory of visiting my cousins when I was young and playing a few levels of Warcraft 3 on their computer. Being a small boy, I simply enjoyed the premise of building an army and destroying the enemy base. Life was simple at that age. I didn't understand any of the mechanics. I just clicked to select and clicked to attack. Then my older cousin taught me a cheat code, which stuck with me for the rest of my life, because I wanted to one day buy this game. The cheat was, greed is good, with no spaces. I actually wrote it down in a notebook and saved it for many years, thinking I would one day actually get around to saving up enough money to first, buy a computer, and second, buy Warcraft 3. The internet was around when I was a kid. Let's not insult me by either over or underaging me. But searching things online, like cheats for a game, just wasn't something I ever considered. And that's all my experience with the original Warcraft 3. I played a level or two, and I loved it. I didn't know anything about it, and I learned a cheat code for money and resources, which I still haven't used, but lived in my brain rent-free with the original 151 Pokemon. If I could apply my memory to something useful, who knows what I could accomplish? The story of Warcraft follows the conflict between the Horde and the Alliance factions. In Warcraft 3, you follow the story through 9 different campaigns, each one focusing on a different perspective, time, and aspect of the conflict. You could also simplify and say this is the story how Illidan became a demon hunter and Arthas became the Lich King. But you get to see the founding of the world leading up to vanilla World of Warcraft. And that's one thing I've found most exciting coming from the perspective of someone who's played way too much World of Warcraft. And knowing the lore backwards from listening to the audiobooks and playing the MMORPG. Which, I might add, the lore is done much better in the novels. I'm sure that doesn't surprise anyone, but it's totally worth checking out the books if you're into Warcraft lore. Specifically, Warcraft 3 is basically told in the novel World of Warcraft Arthas, Rise of the Lich King. But yes, the story for Warcraft 3 starts with the Horde's exodus from the Eastern Kingdoms to the land of Kalimdor, led by a certain favorite orc of ours. I heard Thrall called Green Jesus once, and I can never get it out of my head now. Then followed by the Humans campaign, the Scourge of Lordaeron, where a plague has been spreading through the human lands of Lordaeron, and Prince Arthas is just the paladin to save everyone. And then everyone's favorite aforementioned Culling scene.
Watch your tone with me, boy. You may be the prince, but I'm still your superior as a paladin.
As if I could forget.
Listen, Uther. There's something about the plague you should know.
After the human campaign, you follow along the story with Arthas as the leader of the Scourge, burning down the High Elves' homes, reviving Kel'Thuzad, destroying the Sunwell, and the siege of Dalaran. After the Scourge campaign, you switch back to the good guys, over in Kalimdor. You know what we say, green is good and red is dead. Now we follow Thrall and Hellscream as the orcs settle Kalimdor and meet up with some well-known creatures. Centaurs, Tauren, Night Elves, and Manaroth, oh my! Next we have the Night Elves campaign, because somebody had to bring the Druids into this game, so it might as well be the Tree Huggers. With familiar faces of Tranda, Malfurion, and what's this? The other Storm Rage brother set free from his prison. Actually, it might be the Night Elf campaign, but this is the big climax for Warcraft III, where all the races come together to ward off Archimonde and save the world of Warcraft. And only now am I starting to think to myself, why is Medivh still alive? Was he not killed for his betrayal of bringing the orcs and Gul'dan into the world? You know what? This video is already long enough. Moving on. After that ending on a pleasant note of unity within the races of Azeroth, what's this? A new conflict is brewing? Shocking. This time we follow the Sentinels, who were charged with keeping Illidan Stormrage contained and imprisoned. The last 4 campaigns here are all part of the Frozen Throne expansion, but I didn't notice that until I did a bit of digging for this review. Then we have the Alliance campaign? Well, it's called the Alliance campaign, but I'd retitle it Lord Garithos is a Bastard, and this is why the Blood Elves didn't join the Alliance. Also, we learn why the Blood Elves, Naga, and Illidan ended up in Outland. This campaign is really just setting the stage for the final part of the story where Illidan and Arthas showdown in Northrend. By the end of this campaign, each level was taking over an hour to complete on normal difficulty, and I made an executive decision to switch to story mode for the rest of the game to expedite things. I am here for the story mostly, after all. Then the grand finale, part 2, is the Scourge campaign, where we lead Arthas to fulfill his destiny in becoming the Lich King, being dragged out of the Eastern Kingdoms and up to the ice cold of Northrend because Ner'zhul is losing his powers, and Illidan is trying to destroy the Lich King. The final campaign, or bonus campaign as it's labeled, is a bit of a weird one in the collection because it plays more like an RPG. You play as Rexxar, who is a half-orc, half-ogre. Hate to ask him what his parents were like. You have 3 acts as you work with Thrall and the Horde members to develop Durotar, their new home, and Orgrimmar, the best city in World of Warcraft, except for maybe Silvermoon. I'm not biased, you can't prove anything. Anyway, looks like the humans are back at it again. How could Jaina let the hard-fought peace between the orcs and humans fall so easily? I mean, isn't this basically how it goes for each World of Warcraft expansion? You gotta have drama, and each faction pitted against each other from time to time to tell stories in this universe. Going back to just talking about the campaigns in general, sprinkled between chapters there are interludes which give more story about what's happening at large within the world, and the reward for getting to the end of a campaign is a cinematic. And we're not talking about sock puppets for the campaign ending video. This is fresh 2000s Blizzard cinematics. Mwah! Chef kiss. What can I say? I love it. It's beautiful. I wish the interludes looked like this. And that's the campaigns for Warcraft III. If you're a big lore fan, again, I strongly encourage checking out the books. But you can get an easier to digest version of the story from playing Warcraft III. As I said, as the game went on, each level was taking longer and longer, and while it was nice to play an RTS again, it started to overstay its welcome. Each campaign has roughly 3 to 8 levels in it, and just to math that out for us all, math is so much easier when you're doing it when no one's looking over your shoulder. 5 plus 9 plus 8 plus 8 plus 7 is 37 levels for the main game, and 8 plus 6 plus 8 is 22 for the Frozen Throne, plus the abnormally long 3 bonus levels. The earlier levels were pretty quick. It looks like, depending on how you play and how good you are at RTS games, you could be looking anywhere from 25 to over 40 hours playing through the campaign. Don't know for sure because Blizzard doesn't let me track my game time like Steam does. The campaign was my favorite part of this game. because I'm definitely not playing this game competitively in any way. I'm not going to be any help to you there. I'm just letting you know now.
I stand ready.
It shall be done. I come to cleanse this land. I come to cleanse this land. I come to cleanse this land.
In a way, I think of Warcraft 3 as the game which inspired other games. From this launching point, Blizzard set out to change game genres and made arguably their most successful video game ever, World of Warcraft. Not only that, a whole new game genre came about from Warcraft 3, namely the MOBA, standing for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. And the game Dota came about from a Warcraft 3 mod. There's quite the heritage here with this game, and while playing I'll sometimes get hit by the thought, it makes sense how this genre inspired Dota. Or while playing the bonus campaign as Rexar, I couldn't help but think, yeah, yellow exclamation points, I can see how they'd go on to make an MMORPG after this game. Or I'll see the theme of each race in the game and think, that's where they got the idea to make orc, elf, or human architecture to look that way in World of Warcraft. Ah! There were many aha moments while playing. Part of that is I just can't turn off the critical part of my brain. The other part is I just kind of like looking for stuff like this while I'm playing video games. Gotta keep my brain engaged somehow, right? Never mind the influence this game had with setting down the lore for the upcoming Burning Crusades and Wrath of the Lich King DLC for World of Warcraft. The only thing I can say is, why didn't I play Warcraft 3 when I was younger and had way too much free time to burn, grinding out levels on Pokemon Silver for the umpteenth time? The campaign will break the rules from time to time and make you play as only a hero or play as a band of heroes instead of the standard RTS experience, but generally speaking, the idea in most real-time strategy games is pretty simple. Build stuff to build units, vehicles, soldiers, peons, peasants, etc. Command those units to destroy your enemy's base. Again, the campaign makes its own rules, and sometimes your goal is to get a certain item, or control special points on the map, or some other type of objective, but the general idea of RTS is so eloquently summed up by my friend Tyler from middle school. You build more! You build more! So let's say hypothetically you've never played an RTS before. You play from the perspective of a top-down camera. You can move the camera in several different ways, naturally with scrolling by pushing the mouse cursor to the edges of the screen or by using the arrow keys. One of your best and fastest ways to look around is actually by left-clicking on the mini-map in the bottom left corner of the screen. The next thing to do is move a unit around. You left-click on it, or you left-click and drag to select units within a selected area. Then you right-click somewhere to move there. If your right-click is on a hostile enemy, your troops will attack automatically. But to control your units better, there are specific shortcut keys you can press to direct. Move is your M key, stop is your S key, hold position is H, and attack is A. I'm going to be honest with you, for the campaign I mostly clicked on buttons and used the keyboard shortcut A to get through the game. And that worked on the regular campaign for me. Those shortcut keys get more complicated because each race has different shortcut keys. Like, for orcs, you build burrows, which requires the O key. And the Scourge summon ziggurats, which use the Z key. Different buildings, similar use being you need both to increase the amount of troops you can have. Speaking generally, you have the following types of buildings. Your capital headquarters building, where you can recruit your workers. Your barracks, where you can get your cheapest fighting force. A lumber mill, where your workers can bring lumber instead of walking all the way back to the capital. A blacksmith, or something which lets you upgrade armor and weapons of your units. Farms, burrows, ziggurats, many words to say building which increases your food so you can build a larger army. Hero building. Each race has one, and it's called something different every time. You can also have towers, which can be upgraded to attack nearby enemies. For the undead, ziggurats are also the towers. The last building in common is a shop where you can buy items for hero units. Each race has other buildings it can build, and lots of different types of units. Sometimes you won't be able to recruit units until you've built or upgraded existing buildings first. As a general rule, your capital building can be upgraded once or twice, and you usually want to do that so you can recruit the beefy fighting guys. There are 3 resources you need to track on the screen at a time: gold, lumber, and food. Buildings, upgrades, and recruiting units will require some combination of these things. All units are going to require some amount of food, and you can just know the better they are, the more food they're gonna eat. Greedy jerks. Did I say there are 3 resources you need to keep track of? There's actually another resource you need to be aware of, but it's not on the screen. Time. And that's the reason I cannot play this game competitively. There's just way too much that needs to be done, and people who have played this game competitively have the building order and plan down to a science. What should I build first? I don't know. I slapped down some farms, a barracks, and a lumber mill. And that's what got me messed up in my first 2 online matches, because you want to make heroes as soon as possible so they can start getting those special items and gain experience from battles and grow stronger. But I'm getting ahead of myself. After you've built your buildings and recruited some units, next you need to explore. There's Fog of War, which is what we call the dark area outside of your building/troops vision. By looking at the minimap, you can see where other gold mines are located and special buildings of interest, like mercenary camps where you can hire fighters who are unaffiliated with the race you are playing as. As you build your army up, you'll notice a message pop up called No/low or high upkeep. When you start out, you're at no upkeep, which means you're at 100% gold rate. The bigger your army gets, the more food they'll need. And once your army is eating up more than 50 food, you go into low upkeep, where your gathered gold is now reduced to 70%. And if you have an army so big it's eating up more than 80 food, you move to the high upkeep, where your gold will be further reduced to 40%. Putting away the percentages and moving to actual helpful numbers, each time your peasant brings gold back to the castle, you get 10 gold. If you're in low upkeep, you get 7 gold each time. And in high upkeep, you get 4 gold each time. The worst part is each time your serf goes into the gold mine, it takes away from the total gold available the same amount regardless of your upkeep status. Sometimes in the campaign, that called for careful use of resources, so I wouldn't run out of gold. Once your gold mine hits 0, it collapses.
Our gold mine has collapsed.
Can't get any more gold there. I don't want to get into the weeds too much on the gameplay because it goes well beyond the scope of my review and my capabilities as simply a guy who just wanted to play the campaign of Warcraft III. There are magic users, heroes have stats, there are transportation airships and boats, there's flying units, different racial buildings and units, siege units. I found out in my online game someone used a freaking item which gave him a critter to move into my base and spy on me. There are spies in this game. I'll be sure to shoot every critter I see from now on. I've been betrayed by a freaking crab. With all these differences between the races, the slightly different playstyle depending on the race, the plethora of items and upgrades for your hero, the campaign eases you into it pretty good. But even after the campaign was done and I tried to take a step into online matchmaking or casual games, I got my butt handed to me. Nothing I learned from playing the campaign really helped ease me into actually playing 1v1. But we'll cover that in a second. Remember the basic principles we've started with. Your mission when playing most RTS games is to build a base, recruit an army, and destroy the enemy. Simple in explanation and understanding. Complex in execution. Easy to pick up, difficult to master. In the words of Tyler, you build more. I nearly forgot to mention that you can play on Reforged or Classic graphics. I played through the campaign on Reforged graphics, but I do like that you can play on either Reforged or Classic graphics. The annoying thing is the progress is tracked separately on the campaigns. So even though I beat the game on Reforged graphics, I need to restart all the campaigns with Classic graphics. It's a minor gripe, and more of an inconvenience, but it's still a gripe of mine, and it's barely a footnote in this review because that's kinda how this setting felt, hidden away in the options as a toggle. It's not like playing Halo Remastered where you can press a button and switch between the graphics at will. That's what I actually wanted to be able to do, to toggle quickly between them. I'm glad they included it, but it seems like the bare minimum, especially since they replaced the old game with Reforged, and having options is always good. Just gotta replay the whole game. Maybe I'll come back in a few years and redo it on classic graphics. Why not?
For honor. Dabu.
War Chief, we've discovered a group of Murloc raiders in the nearby river.
The Murlocs would make excellent targets for your new Chain Lightning spell. To have Thrall use his new ability, click on the Chain Light.
So you finished the game. Now what happens? Well, for most of us, we would challenge our friends at LAN parties and see which one of you is the Lord of Warcraft. But times are different now. If you want to keep playing single player, you can replay the campaign on a harder difficulty, or look up custom campaigns online. This is in the spirit of the original Warcraft 3, which resulted in creative minds making loads of awesome stuff for the community to participate in. And remember, spurred on the creation of MOBAs and Dota.
Another option to play single player is to create a custom game where you can set up the map you're playing on. 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, or set it free-for-all. Again, there's potential for modders and the community to make cool stuff. Just don't try to think you own it, because remember that nasty little trick in the user agreements. You can set up some settings like game speed, randomize heroes and races, turn off Fog of War, or allow spectators, then invite BattleNet friends and or add easy, normal, or insane difficulty bots. You can make a team of yourself and 4 bots versus 1 lone bot. I'd almost feel bad if I didn't get my butt kicked out of actual online games. Speaking of which, the next, and really the last thing I have to talk about Warcraft 3 Reforged is the Versus game mode. There are 3 ways to play Versus. Unranked, where you play for fun, with no matchmaking, no ladders or ranks. You could queue and play against Little Timmy, who's only 10, or you can match against the Grand Champion of Warcraft 3. In Ranked, you are being judged based on your wins and losses. Before you get your rating, you play 5 games to be determined on what initial league placement you deserve to start at. Lastly, we have tournaments. Tournaments are scheduled events where you can play a pre-selected set of conditions, rules, and maps. And if you win, you move up and challenge the other winners. Tournament style. In Versus, you play as humans, orcs, undead, and night elves. Don't know what happened to the Naga and Blood Elves from the Frozen Throne expansion, but whatever. Oh, and are you having trouble deciding what to play? Either because you're too indecisive or too dang good at the game, pick random and leave it up to fate what race you'll play as. You can play in 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, and free for all.
Insufficient gold.
This does beg the question, what are we playing for? In general, we're playing to win! And for the fun of it. Some people are playing for the sake of esports. Apparently Blizzard thinks I'm playing for achievements, which aren't achievements. Not like the ones I'm familiar with in World of Warcraft or on Steam game achievements. No, you earn collection portraits and stats on your profile. I've earned 11 portraits from playing through the whole campaign. If I replay the campaign on the hardest difficulty, I can unlock 11 more portraits. but you'll forgive me if that doesn't sound like something I want to do. You can only equip one profile picture at a time, and I have other video games I'd like to go play. Thank you. I queued up for a ranked game and got my butt kicked handily. I queued up for an unranked match and got my butt kicked again, and was betrayed by a critter crab spy. Thankfully, the individual I played against wasn't hostile or rubbing it in my face how badly I lost, and we had a nice conversation. It's something I'm not used to having in online competitive video games. It's sad, isn't it? I just assume people online are out to yell at me when I'm playing a competitive video game. Those two matches were enough for me to realize either I learn how to play the game by watching tutorials and learning the best way to play and succumb to the cookie-cutter strategies you see in RTS gamers, or I keep losing on online matches. Back in the day, you'd play this type of game against someone who was equally awful at it. It's kind of a universal thing many of us had as kids. Most of us played an RTS at some point, be it Warcraft, Red Alert, or Command & Conquer. We all thought we were reasonably good at it, and most of us were terrible at it. But that seems like a melancholy way to end this review, and I won't stand for it.
Are you hero and obey order? Your command. I stand ready.
In conclusion, I enjoyed playing Warcraft 3. Yes, I played it for the lore. Yes, I played it because I wanted the game as a kid. Yes, I'm bad at the game. Yes, I'm a filthy casual. Yes, yes, yes. But that's fine, or at least I think it's fine. I really did enjoy playing the game. I can see myself playing this again online with a friend or two sometime. We have a few friends here that join up to do LAN parties with. This game could totally be one of those games we organize, if they have a copy. Remember, I picked it up on sale. Always wait for a sale, kids. It'll happen sooner or later. And as I said, I'll probably replay the campaign again sometime. I can play the campaign offline on my laptop, so I can even play it mobilely. Hopefully this video has been a video. Thanks for sticking through with me to the end. I'll take all the stones you throw at me, or hopefully more realistically and less sadistically, I will take your nostalgia, stories, and reminiscence of our collective childhoods, staying up late at night playing video games with a friend or more, dragging your PC to LAN parties, drinking Mountain Dew and eating pizza like a freaking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Thank you all for watching. You know the call to action, like, comment, subscribe, and hey, I hope you have a great day. Today is a great day to have a great day. My name is Atratzu, and thanks for watching. Job's done.
Job's done.